A tariff is a tax or duty to be paid on a particular class of imports or exports.
China. China. China.
Over 764,000 metric tons of Chinese goods are imported to the United States every day. China and the United States are the two largest economic giants on the face of the earth.
There's an economic term called chimerica. We're really dependent on each other right now.
Currently, the United States imports more than $127 billion of Chinese goods every year. However, it wasn't always like this. Over the years, the United States has become increasingly more dependent on China. From the year 1980 to 2019, U.S. imports of Chinese goods have risen from $58.44 million to $557.9 billion. That's over 9,500%. On February 7th, 2018, President Donald Trump announced a tariff on China that will change the U.S. economy forever.
We've taxed China on $300 billion worth of goods and products being sold into our country. We're also charging them 25% on $250 billion, and China eats it because they have to pay it.
Donald Trump said that tariffs are the greatest, but China doesn't feel the same way. Just 2 months after Trump's tariff, Chinese President Xi Jinping's response was to take countermeasures to protect its core national interests and the fundamental interests of the people. China also said that if America wants to implement these tariffs, then they should be prepared for all the possible consequences.
The foreseen things are pretty clear, like the Brazilian rainforest burns down because they want to produce farms there that can supply China and replace American farms.
With China's response tariffs, U.S. companies are sure to suffer. Since Apple's main manufacturing company is centered in Shenzhen, Apple will surely be affected. For example, the tariff will increase the price of every Apple product created in China. So the only choice is to shift the extra cost caused by the tariff onto the consumer. When companies are forced to raise the price of everyday items, consumers will be reluctant to purchase them. To learn more about this, we reached out to a small local toy store owner to receive his experience with the tariff.
I'll put it simply, things cost more. Ever since that tariff went into place, the prices of our goods have skyrocketed. And that's really, really hurting my business as a consumer because all the products I have are either made in China or come from China somehow. So the fact of it is that things are getting too expensive. I have no choice but then to mark up the prices on my goods, which then hurts my consumers. To tell you the truth, I'm concerned. I don't know if I, as a small business owner and a consumer, will be able to continue on with this pattern.
U.S. imports from China accounted for 21.2% of overall U.S. imports in 2018. The U.S. depends on China, not only for low-cost goods and workforce, but also to support our own exports. Knowing this, the actions taken by the U.S. are self-destructive, directly harming the interests of U.S. consumers, financial markets, and companies.
I think the way that President Trump has chosen to fight China is really problematic. They clearly are doing illegal things trade-wise. But if you're going to do that, you join the Trans-Pacific Partnership that Obama formed with all the other nations, Australia, Canada, Japan, etc. Then you fight China together rather than make those other nations angry and then try to go against China yourself. It's definitely going to hurt us.
On June 28, 2019, President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump met with intent to negotiate and form a compromise. They discussed a possible rollback on tariffs if a deal could be struck. A chance to save the U.S. economy and escape the consequences of Trump's actions was available, but Trump denied the agreement, stating that,
If they don't want to trade with us anymore, that would be fine with me. Would save a lot of money. President Xi, who's somebody I like a lot, I think he wants to make a deal, but frankly, he's not going fast enough. But in the meantime, until such time as there's a deal, we'll be taxing them.
We are kind of in a cool war with China, but at the same time, we can't survive without China. They have almost 25% of our debt. So if we're not going to do things with China, they'll just flood the market with our money, and then we'll be ruined. So Trump may think that's the way it works, but that's not the way it actually works in reality.